Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Victoria Bright, the Director of Experiences at Tech Alliance of Southwestern Ontario, a place for dreamers, doers, and world-changing ideas. And at Tech Alliance, we're committed to innovative companies who are launching, scaling, and competing globally through our advisory services, our accelerator, and experiences like these today with partners and participants like all of you. So with many businesses pivoting to tackle new projects in the fight against COVID-19, new additional resources have been made available through Mitacs Accelerate Program, connecting industry, academia, and students on fast-tracking proposals and bolstering new innovations and solutions. So to that end, let's take a deeper dive in today's session. We're so pleased to host Funding Innovation through Mitacs Student Industry Collaborations in partnership with Katie Facecchia. And before we get started, let me share a few key points with you. Everyone is muted. And if you have any questions, please scroll down with your mouse to the bottom of the screen and you'll see a Q&A, and you can submit your questions there throughout the presentation and we'll address them at the end. And the webinar will also be recorded and available after the call. So now on to our presentation. I am pleased to introduce Katie Facecchia of Mitacs. Katie, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Victoria. And thank you, everyone. You did a good job with the last name. Well done. Thanks for joining today. I know it's beautiful outside, so we'll try to keep it quick so you can go enjoy that weather. And I think I'll just jump right into it. So as Victoria mentioned, my name is Katie Facecchia. I'm a Director of Business Development at Mitacs, and I cover most of Southwestern Ontario. So I look forward to meeting hopefully everyone that's on this call in person in the near future. Fingers crossed. So today I'm going to go over, what Mitacs is, who we are, what we do, and then happy to answer any questions afterwards. So Mitacs, we are a national independent non-for-profit organization that funds collaborative research between academia and industry. That's the official elevator pitch. How do we do this exactly? Well, we do it through building collaborative partnerships between those, as I mentioned, and that's done through funding collaborative research projects. So that's the bread and butter of what we do. The process that we take is that people like me, business development directors and specialists, we start from your reality. Where's your company at? What stage? What are you looking for? We determine a scope of a project. Then we help identify the right expertise. Obviously, we'll connect you to the expertise at institutions across Canada, and then we have a little bit of funding that can go towards that as well. So us, as I mentioned, business development team, we're located in every university and college across Canada. We've had over 10,000 research projects that are supported annually. We're a pretty big organization now. We're over 200 people. And there's 3 major hubs in Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal. We're about 20 years old. We started in Vancouver and kind of worked our way east as the years went on, and now we're all across Canada. So the one main program that we have is Accelerate. This is our flagship program. This is for research projects. And this is the one that pretty much encompasses the majority of the work that we do, including our COVID call and other things of that sort. So I'm going to get right into kind of the details of this and explain to you exactly what it is. Excuse me. So eligibility-wise, it's open to all sectors and all disciplines. It doesn't matter if it's engineering or history or anything, we will fund it. It can be with a for-profit company or a non-for-profit. There are certain non-for-profits that we can't work with that are usually a government agency. We get our funding both federally and provincially, so it would be considered double dipping in that case if it's publicly funded. But if it's an incorporated not-for-profit, there's usually a good chance that we can work with you. And that's just a quick vetting. It is open to students. They're kind of the living bridge between the partner organization and the academic institution. So it's open to masters, PhDs, postdocs, and college students that work with you face-to-face on these research projects. These projects can be small or large. The smallest we'll fund is a 4-month, $15,000 project, and then that can scale up into multi-million-dollar projects spanning over 4 or 5 years. So you can use this as a quick, we need something quick tomorrow, Or it could be, here's our larger strategic plan that's going to span 4 years, and we can work with you to kind of find the right people at the right time to get you to where you are and where you want to be. There is an application process that's usually done on the academic side, and it does go out for external peer review. So it does, like I said, it has to be research, and this is kind of the level of research that it has to be, that it does go out for academic peer review. However, it is non-competitive. So those reviewers are there to make sure that, yes, this is novel research that you're conducting. Yes, it's appropriate for this level of student. It can be done in the amount of time and using the methods provided. It's also fairly quick. So on average, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get approval, which is very quick compared to a lot of other funding agencies, which is great. Also, we have over 95% approval rate. So like I said, it's non-competitive. If everything's eligible, we will fund it. So if you put the work in, you'll likely get it. The advantages to you as a company or not-for-profit being involved in this is that, A, you have access to expertise that you currently don't have in-house. So maybe you're doing something that's new and out of your scope. You need that expertise. You don't have a current employee. So you reach out to the institutions to find that expertise. You can use it as a great way to vet potential employees as well. You get to tap into a national network. Like I said, there's one of me across all of Canada. So while it's great, we can help you look local, which makes a lot of sense. We can really go anywhere across Canada to find the expertise that you're looking for. Of course, spend less, do less paperwork, especially. So we take care of a lot of the required. So the roles and responsibilities pretty much for you as a partner is to identify the project. You sign the proposal and pay a stipend and then provide a meaningful experience, which is great. So you do very little. You don't have to worry about headcount, payroll, administrative duties. A lot of that is taken care of at the academic institution. And I'll get into that a little more detail later on. It's a great way to leverage your R&D budget. And because a portion of our project has to take place on site, face-to-face with you, even during, current conditions are a little bit different, and we're being flexible with that, that you get somebody on site working on that project. As I mentioned, you get assistance throughout the whole application process. I'm here to help with, like I said, figuring out what the project is, identifying the expertise, helping get the proposal written, reviewing it, make sure all the documents are there, and all the way through to submission and then post-award as well, which is also a lot different than other funding agencies when, you kind of just hopefully throw an application into an online portal and then hopefully get an outcome. Well, I'm here to work with you hand in hand throughout the whole process. It's also a great way to develop a pipeline for talent. So great way to vet a potential employee. It's a great way to get a good working relationship with an institution so that if something else comes up down the line, you know exactly who to go to and you know what they do and they know what you do. So it makes a really strong and long-term relationship, which is great. I realize I'm flying through this. The impact, this is a fairly old survey now, but it's been very positive. So over 92% of companies would recommend this program and they've had good outcomes from it. With 11% saw increased sales, 18% saw cost savings. In terms of skills and talent, 30% of the interns that participated were hired by were hired at the organization that they worked with. And to my understanding, 1/3 of those, the position was created just for them. So it didn't exist before. They realized they needed, this expertise, and it was created for them. About 50%, so 47% engaged in new collaborations with the academic sector. So this is perhaps a relationship that you don't have already that we're able to make new connections with. And 82% continued collaboration with that academic person as well. So we just kind of sometimes can kickstart things, which is a really good way to get in and then build bigger, longer projects off of that. In terms of new product development, 66% said that the results would be commercialized, which is great because that's what you want. For us, our mandate is more the experience that everyone has. We don't care if the product is commercialized. We don't care if the results are published. We absolutely encourage it, but it's not a necessary outcome of the project. We want you to find solutions to your problems. We want students to get experience outside of academia, and we want academia to be able to apply a lot of their knowledge, which is great. 36% had a new or enhanced product development out of these collaborations. Overall, 47% saw increased value for their R&D. 37 launched new R&D projects, and 62% continued developing the research from a project. So there's a lot of value in this, and I think our program really allows you to de-risk a lot of the R&D as well as potential employees. Okay, I think there we go. So how does this work? In terms of funding, we work in modules. So say this block represents one module. You would put in half the funds. So for that one block, it's worth $15,000. You would put in $7,500. We would match that. And then you would get total $15,000. This can be scaled up to kind of whatever you need the project to be. So you can multiply those blocks by how many people you need, what's the duration of the project, maybe you have a particular budget in mind, so we can work with you to determine what that is. Like I said, master's, PhDs, postdocs, and college students are all eligible. So they kind of take on one block per student, and you can work with them pretty much throughout their entire academic career, which is nice. So if you find someone you really like working with as a master's student, and they decide to continue on as a PhD, they can continue working on a project with you throughout the entire time. So the way the funding cycle kind of works is that we would invoice you, the partner, directly for the funds. We bypass university overhead that way. So I know there's some Western people on the line, so cover your ears. Mitacs, like I said, will match the funds. We'll then send it to the institution as a research grant that will be held with the primary supervisor. Out of those funds, 2/3 minimum goes to student stipend, so they get paid to work with you face-to-face, and there is 1/3 available for project-related expenses. So say we recruit somebody from Memorial University in Newfoundland, some of those project-related expenses can go to travel to spend time face-to-face with you on site. It can also be out for fieldwork. It can be software licensing fees, materials, consumables, and pretty much anything that would support the student in the project. It's also required, as I mentioned, that students spend about 50% of the time at the academic institution. A lot of the time, that's why you like working with academia as well, is to get access to the resources there. So perhaps there's a particular equipment or maybe a software package that you don't have in-house. You get access to that through the student. And then they spend about 50% of the time face-to-face with you. So they're on site, they're not an official employee, but incorporate them into the team. Like I said, great way to vet a potential employee. 50-50 is kind of our default, but we're really flexible with that. We can go 25-75 either way. And you work that out with the student. So if it's a close local student, maybe they come a couple times a week. Or maybe they have to be there for a full month, the beginning of the project, and then come back at the end. That's really flexible, you kind of figure it out. With current COVID situation, we are allowing a lot of virtual and remote work, no problem, so not an issue. So where to start? The first step is to identify expertise. So if you have an idea, if you have something that you'd like to do, contact me. We'll figure out that expertise that you're looking for, that project scope, and then I'll find it at the academic institution for you. The second one is to make that connection. So usually the next step is to have a phone call or a face-to-face meeting with that academic person, and you say, this is what we'd like to do. And they say, yeah, that's something we can do. This is how we do it. This is how you do it then becomes the proposal. You as the partner organization signs the proposal. It is non-legally binding. It's a memorandum of understanding, which is nice. And that goes off for academic peer review. The next is pay the invoice that we send you. That one's pretty simple. We do ask for the funds up front so that the student can get paid on day one instead of working for 3 or 4 months without getting paid. That's kind of how we work. And you only have to pay semesterly if you choose. We can do annual, we can do lump sum, whatever works. We're pretty flexible on that. And then the fifth, of course, is to provide a meaningful experience for these particular interns that you're working with. So that's it. It's simple, right? I can go through, I guess the hardest part really is coming up with that project scope and making the connection. And that's what I'm here to help. So I thought I would grab some examples of past funded projects. So of course we have our COVID call out, which Victoria mentioned. That one actually has a deadline of June 1st. So if you have something in mind, if you want to get something going, we'd have to do it extremely quickly. For those projects, we are providing a 75% discount, and the turnaround time is about 1 to 2 weeks. Like I said, it does end on June 1st, so you have to get an application fairly quick. So please let me know on that. And I'll go through another small funding mechanism that we have as well. So this one was actually between Suncor and Western University, and it was rapid scaling of the spike protein that'll allow for test kits, at-home test kits in the workplace so that people can get back to work and know if they've been infected or have the antibodies or anything like that. So that one was kind of cool. Another one was with AVL manufacturing, again with Western University. This original project had nothing to do with COVID, but the student was using the exact same research, the data, the expertise to then apply it to the current situation. And they came up with these modular components that could go up really quick in a day and be completely sustainable with pressurized, full HVAC, and energy. So it could be used alternatively as hospitals, like a mobile hospital, or a good way to triage. Another one was using additive manufacturing to minimize transmission, and they were of course doing 3D printing, not of the face masks themselves and also door openers, but 3D printing the mold that the mold shop would use to make this en masse. So instead of it was a quick way to get them out quickly. I bet you can't guess which university that was with. Another one that we've had was with an architecture firm. This one was looking at making photovoltaic sunshades on buildings, and they were using their own building as a case study to see if this could be a new product for them. We've had projects around agri-food, mixing with STEM and Industry 4.0 technologies, which was kind of cool. We have projects in computer science. This one had to do with genome, and we have lots of partnerships with Genome Canada even. So we go all the way into very hardcore math and stats, but I also wanted to highlight that we do have projects with psychology, for example, and leadership development with psychology. We've had projects in history even, and this is pretty cool for those of you that live in London. This was an oral history project where this postdoc actually went and knocked on people's doors to find the history of their home and who lived there, who was the first person to live there and what did they do, because it was kind of lost in history. So this one was really kind of cool. And I think the City of London, while they weren't a partner, they did use the results of the study for urban planning. And then, really offbeat, we've had projects with an opera house. So really, we don't care if it's STEM or psychology or social sciences. It doesn't matter. We'll fund everything and anything. So how Mitacs can help, just to summarize, is we can connect you with research expertise. We can stretch your R&D budget and help you recruit talent. So I have to say thank you to our funding partners, and now open for questions. And I think I went through that quite quickly. It's hard when you don't do this in person.
Yeah, no, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. That was really informative. You did a great job overviewing everything. We do have some questions that have come in, so I thought maybe we could address those first. One of the questions that have been brought in is, we've heard that undergraduate students are going to be funded. Can you tell us more?
Undergraduate students under our Accelerate program, we've been piloting. So last year we had a pilot where each university got a small allocation. and I'm pretty sure most of them use them up, which is great. We're trying to focus on students that have a lot of potential to get into grad school afterwards, so to kind of get their foot in the door with research. We're doing that again this year. Like I said, the allocation is pretty small. We have to go to our federal funders to ask to say, okay, we'd like to open this up to you undergrads. So that is our next ask. So fingers crossed it goes well.
Okay. And then we have a few more questions that have come in. So you mentioned that it's available to all sectors and disciplines, and you've given some really good examples of how it works. I guess one of the questions that came in was regarding the application forms, and if there are applications, so would they reach out to you first, or is there something like, what is the process, reaching out to you first to discuss their initiative first, or do they go straight to the application form, and is there a link?
The application is available online if anybody wants to see what it looks like, but the application usually comes after. So the first part is come to me. If you already know who you'd like to work with, you've already identified a student or a professor or faculty at an institution, great, you've done the hard part. But yeah, that would all come after. I can also email a application. Like I said, it's usually done on the academic side. It has to be researchy, to use my very technical term. So while companies are happy to write it, you can get involved as little or as much as you want, but it would be very scientific, even from the social science side, right? Still scientific method. I can describe it briefly. So there is a background section. So it's a literature review with references. So that's usually done on the academic side. There is what is the general objective. So one sentence, what's the overall objective of the project? Usually the partner organization can contribute to that. There's a section for sub-objectives to break it down a little further. There's a methodology section, which is really in depth and most detailed, technical wording and things like that. That's really a step-by-step process of what the students will be doing. So, list the software that they'll be using for the analytics. If there's a survey, what survey questions might you ask? What themes are you looking for? So it gets really into the details. And then the rest is what's the benefit to the company, the benefit to Canada, the benefit to the intern, and things like that. So that's what the application looks like. Like I said, that would come after. The partner organization says, this is what we want to do, and it's the academic that says, yeah, we can do that. This is how we'll do it. And like I said, that becomes the proposal.
Okay, and another question is what would you recommend as next steps, and how do you access, if you don't have the expertise within your organization that's not currently available? Do you recommend that they reach out to people who are in academia first, or connect with you and you make those connections for them?
Yeah, I can make those connections, absolutely. If they have an idea of who they'd like to work with, we can start there and kind of work together. So if they have an in, go for it. If not, I'm happy to do that, or use my colleagues across Canada to find that expertise. So yep, that's my job. Come to me first.
Okay, wonderful. And I had another question here too. In identifying the project and going forward with a proposal, you mentioned that you have to pay a stipend. What is the amount that normally you have to pay?
So we do have a funding mechanism, like I showed. So projects will start at $15,000, but they can be, up to the millions. It doesn't matter. Each of those blocks a student takes on, and they have to be paid $10,000 minimum as a stipend, up to the 15. So the flexibility is built in right with that. So usually it's up to the academic supervisor to pay the students what they would normally pay them, or what's required, or things like that. Companies can always top up if it's not enough, especially in certain areas. But everything is kind of part of the funding module. So it would be $7,500 that the company would pay. We'd match that, and then it would go as a total $15,000. And out of that $15,000, that's how it's divvied up, if that makes sense. So.
Right. Okay, another question is, I have found a prof. Do I connect with you next, or do I ask the prof to connect first?
Either or, all. Yep, come to me, loop me in with the prof in an email, and say we'd like to get a project started, and I can explain next steps and how to move forward. Okay. We're really flexible.
Okay, and does paying the student the full-time amount extend the project timeline?
We can extend project timelines 4 to 6 months with that block. So normally we see that, say, a master's student would do a 6-month block and get the minimum stipend, whereas a postdoc would probably do the minimum amount of time with the maximum stipend, if that makes sense. So we kind of treat everybody the same, but you have the flexibility in the stipend and the timeline to have it line up with the level of expertise, if that helps.
Great. And then I had another question come in here just regarding to, given you mentioned the deadline is June the 1st, what are the next steps in terms of having guidance with proposal writing and helping them with an application?
Come to me and I'll help. I usually say, whoever's writing the application, send me something as soon as you have it down on paper. If they're uncertain, I can make sure that they're in the right direction. The June 1st deadline is only for COVID-related projects that will give a 75% discount to. If you miss the deadline, you can still apply. That's not a problem. It just, the turnaround time might be not as quick. It might be that full to 6 to 8 weeks to go for external peer review. The other thing I forgot to mention is that we are giving a discount, again, the same discount, 75%, to SMEs that have a project. That deadline is July 1st, and these projects have to start before August. So if you miss the June 1st deadline, if it's a COVID-related project, but are still eligible for this SME discount, so small, medium-sized enterprises, then it's okay, then you have another month to get that discount, if that's helpful. And if not, you might have to pay the full amount, but you can still apply. We don't have deadlines normally for Accelerate. It's open all the time.
And then we have one more question here. It relates to restrictions. If someone applies for this type of funding, is there restrictions to applying to other types of funding?
No, we can't double dip or stack funds. We get both federal and provincial funding. So say, for example, if you apply to NSERC and you give them, you know, $7,500, you can't use that same $7,500 for us, but you can, if it's fresh money, yes, apply for everyone, anyone, that's up to you. If you are a for-profit company and you've received a grant from somewhere and it's not, you know, leveraged already or whatever it is, you know, we don't ask. I know this is being recorded. I should probably watch that. We assume the funding is coming from your bottom line. So as long as it's not double leveraged, no double stacking.
Okay. And I think that's it for the questions, unless anyone has any more. I think that's it for today. I believe, you know, you've gone over quite a few things, just keeping in mind some takeaways. Really, it helps with your R&D efforts. It helps attract talent. It helps your organization expand and really leverage those ideas you have. And it seems like there's different streams that you have for COVID-related projects that have the 75% discount. That deadline is June the 1st. And then finally, the other one for SMEs is July 1st, did you say?
Correct.
Right. Okay. And so I just want to thank you again, Katie Facecchia from Mitacs for joining us today and for your incredible insight to show support on how collaborations can make such a huge impact in our community. And the examples you showed and the collaborations that we have between industry and academia it can be so powerful. So the link to the video recording today and a handout will be sent to everyone following today's broadcast. And so be sure to also visit our upcoming events at techalliance.ca. So I just want to say thank you again to everyone and have an incredible afternoon and be well. And thanks for joining us today.